Hello everyone and welcome to Nervous Nessie. This is the fourth and last video in my medical travel emergencies series. This video is different from the other ones. I am going to do my very best to try and get through this video. It is a very personal video. That I hope I don't cry. This medical emergency did not happen to me. It actually happened to my niece, and I wanted to share her story and hopefully give you something to think about for the next time you travel in regards to medical emergencies. So with this story, what happened was my sister and her husband and 3 girls ended up going to Florida to visit some of his family for vacation in the summer. And they go down there every year. They make at least 1, if not 2 trips down there every year and spend time with his family. And this year that the accident happened, they went down there and they had a day that they were on his brother's boat out on the water, and they had an inner tube, a big donut tube that they were pulling behind the boat and letting everybody take turns riding on the inner tube. They have done this many, many times. Every time they go down there, they do this. I have done this, not there, but I have done the inner tube on behind a boat before. It's a lot of fun, but it can be dangerous. Now, at the time, my niece was on the inner tube. She was getting pulled behind the boat. My sister was filming it. They were having fun. It was just a fun day out on the water with the family. My niece at the time was 7 years old, and she's on the inner tube. She is getting pulled by the boat. She's having the time of her life. And a young woman, don't know her exact age, late teens, early 20s, was on a jet ski, and she was on her cell phone. So she was driving the jet ski and on her cell phone at the same time, and she ran over my niece and hit her directly in the head. They say, don't text and drive. That also implies to any type of vehicle, not just a car or a truck or a van. It also applies to things like a jet ski. And this young woman was not paying attention. She was on her phone and ran over my niece. Of course, everyone panicked. They had to stop the boat, jump in the water, and save her. She did have life jacket on, but they still wanted to get her onto the boat. They got her onto the boat. They called ahead to the shore, and by the time they got back to the shore, an ambulance was waiting on them. The ambulance took her to the emergency room, and in the end, she had to have a craniotomy. They basically cut a horseshoe shape open of her skull. She had bleeding on the brain and had to drain the blood off and try to fix the bleed. She ended up spending about 3 weeks in the hospital, going in and out of ICU. She also broke her arm, and all of this happened in the height of the pandemic. It was July 2020. Unfortunately, because the pandemic was going on only one person could be in the room with my niece at a time. So my sister, my niece's mother, spent most of her time in there while her husband was having to stay outside the hospital and watch their other two little girls. Sometimes they would trade off and take a break, and he would go visit her while my sister was outside the hospital. But for the next 3 weeks, they had to stay in Florida and watch after my niece and see if she was going to pull through or not. We weren't sure if she was going to make it. It was a very, very rough time on the family. Now, I live in California. Of course, I'm panicking and freaking out and looking at flights, to try and fly there and be with the family. My other siblings drove to Florida because they're not far from where my sister was. But they called me and told me don't fly out because they couldn't even get into the hospital. It would do me no good. I wouldn't be able to be with my sister or my niece. So I ended up not flying out, but it was 3 weeks of everyone communicating via phone calls, texts, FaceTime, and trying to get updates on my niece. In the end, she did pull through. She healed, and she is doing fine now. She is a complete fighter. She's just the most fun-loving kid that you will ever meet, and my sister even said she was a joy in the hospital. She was always just smiling and trying to make people laugh, even though she was going through that tough time. But I wanted to share that story with all of you because you never know when something horrific can happen. And even more so when you travel. My sister's family, they had to be out of work for those 3 weeks to stay with my niece. The medical bills, everything. Luckily, they were visiting family, so they didn't have to pay for a hotel. They were able to stay with family, and that saved some money. But it was a very tough time, and things like that can happen. So when you travel, just remember that stuff like that can happen. If you travel alone, or if you're only with one other person when you travel, leave your information with someone, a friend or family member back home. That way, if there is a medical emergency, they know where you are traveling to and how to get in touch with you. If you are out and about while you're traveling, keep an ID on you, because if a medical emergency happens to you, the emergency responders need to know who you are. Otherwise, you could end up in a hospital as a John or Jane Doe, and it can make things even more complicated to try and get in touch with your friends and family members. Get the travel insurance, and just always know that things like that can happen. Try not to overthink it and think the worst, that every trip you go on, something bad is going to happen, because that's not the case. But if it does, you should always be prepared for the worst and, try to stay positive, keep in touch with family members, and hopefully something like that doesn't happen to you. I was debating about sharing this video with everyone because I wasn't sure if I was going to get through it. Luckily I did. Luckily I didn't have to do too many cutaways and edits with it. And I did keep it short and sweet and didn't give too many details, because the more details I give, the more I think of the pictures of my niece and everything that we went through at that time. But I appreciate the ability to have this platform with YouTube to share her story with all of you. I hope that nothing like this ever happens to any of you. But if it does, hopefully this video helped prepare you for something like that. If you have any questions, you can feel free to leave those below. Please don't ask too many personal questions because I don't want to get into like my niece's condition or anything like that. You know, I mean, like I said, she's doing perfectly fine now. She bounced back, but try not to leave too many personal questions. Keep them more general about medical emergencies and how to handle those. If you have any comments, feel free to leave those below and I will get to those as soon as I can. And I hope you have enjoyed this medical travel emergency series. Hopefully it gives you something to think about and you can take away some tips for future trips. And I look forward to seeing all of you in the next videos, which will not be as depressing and scary as this medical series has been, but I look forward to seeing you in the next videos. Until then, bye!